Krishna, everyone. Nice to see you again, and nice to be able to come and speak a little bit. Yesterday, of course, we spoke from Bhagavad Gita. Today, we're speaking from Srimad Bhagavatam, and I've been informed that you're studying the Srimad Bhagavatam on the first canto, 12th chapter. And please again forgive me for looking over to the side here. I'm looking at my iPad with all the different verses of that particular chapter. So, that, of course, is a very long chapter. And as yesterday, we were speaking from the third chapter of the Bhagavad Gita and weren't able to get through all the verses. So today we'll also do a few, because a lot of these verses here from the 12th chapter are have long purports or have significant purports. So perhaps we'll just do a few and then speak a little bit about each one. Okay, so if you have any difficulty, I believe the internet is better now. It was fixed up yesterday very nicely, so I think I should be able to speak freely and keep the video on.
Yes, it is much better today, Maharaj.
Okay. All right, so we'll start from the first verse. Now, you've already done some of these verses. Is that correct?
12th chapter we haven't started, Maharaj. We have
Oh, you
just
haven't.
completed 11th in the last session.
Okay, okay.
And you can take as few verses or as many verses as you like.
Okay. All right. So the first verse from the Srimad Bhagavatam first canto, 12th chapter, text 1, Sri Sanaka Uvacha, Ashvatam no Parishtena, Brahma Sishnoru Tejasa, Uttaraya Hatogarbha, Ishane Jivita Puna. Here, the translation is the sage Sanak said, the womb of Uttara, mother of Maharaj Parikshit, was spoiled by the dreadful and invincible Brahmastra weapon released by Ashvatthama. But Maharaj Parikshit was saved by the Supreme Lord. Purport: the sages assembled in the forest of Naimisharanya inquired from Sudha Goswami about the birth of Maharaj Parikshit, but in the course of the narration, other topics like the release of the Brahmastra by the son of Drona, his punishment by Arjuna, Queen Kunti Devi's prayers, the Pandavas' visit to the place where Bhishma Dev was lying, his prayers, and thereafter the Lord's departure for Dwarka were discussed. His arrival at Dwarka and residing with the 16,000 queens, etc., were narrated. The sages were absorbed in hearing such descriptions, but now they wanted to turn to the original topic, and thus the inquiry was made by Sanaka Rishi. So the subject of the release of the Brahmastra weapon by Ashvatthama is renewed. So many great personalities are mentioned here. Uttara, Maharaj Parikshit, Ashvatthama. And so here, this sages of Naimisharanya. I had the great fortune of visiting Naimisharanya a few times. And when you go to the Lucknow, you can go a little bit from 2 or 3 hours driving, and you can visit this holy place. And it is said there that actually when Lord Brahma was envisaging what could be the center of the universe for his creation and arranging all the planetary systems, he was meditating in that way, and it said at that time to help him, Lord Vishnu sent his Sudarshan chakra disc, and that disc went flying to the place of Naimisharanya. And there in the middle of Naimisharanya, there's one ghat where everyone visits and pays their obeisances and takes the water on the head. And that chakra went there and went right deep, deep, deep down and returned to Lord Vishnu, who helped Lord Brahma envisage where would be the hub of the center of the universe. So It is said that water is very deep there, uh, and uh, and the sages were sitting around that spot, already a holy place, and 60,000 sages were there. And Sanak Rishi was the elder sage. So the sage Sanak said, starts here with this verse, he said, the womb of Uttara. So Uttara, of course, was the daughter of King Virat. We remember that uh, in the exile of the Pandavas, after they had Maharaj Yudhisthira had lost in the gambling match with the dice, they were exiled, and they had to live uh, for 13 years in the exile. The last year they would have to be incognito, and it said in that year they were staying at the palace of Maharaj Virat. And so they assumed different roles, disguised themselves, and assumed different roles and services. And Arjuna disguised himself as a eunuch and was assigned to teach dance and song and everything, the arts, to Princess Uttara. And so she learned very nicely under his instruction, and he had learned very nicely from his time in the heavenly planets, from the Apsaras and everything. There was another story in regard to that. So he had learned very nicely. So he was teaching, and it was all right for him to teach because he was regarded as eunuch. So he was in the quarters, and of course, Uttara and other ladies were there. So he was teaching like that. When the time came for the end of the period of the 13 years, and the Pandavas revealed their positions to King Virat, then Virat, being very obliged, especially to Arjuna, offered his daughter, Uttara, to Arjuna, but Arjuna said, "No, I cannot accept her as my wife. I've been teaching her. I'm like a teacher, and she's been my student, so it is not proper. But I will accept her as the wife of my son Abhimanyu." So this is how Uttara came to be the wife of Abhimanyu, who is another very famous personality in the Mahabharata story and invincible, just like almost on the level of his father Arjuna. So in the womb of Uttara, now of course Abhimanyu tried to Arjuna. One description in the Mahabharata was Arjuna was in another area of the Kurukshetra battle, and Abhimanyu had been fighting and had been killing many of the Kaurava army. So they came with a plan to capture him and even kill him. And so there's a whole story there about them attacking, and then they were defeating so many of the army of the Pandavas, and Arjuna was away with Krishna in another area, and so all the Pandava Yudhisthira Maharaj is this Chakru, Chakru Vyuha wasn't it? The Chakru Vyuha. It was arranged by them. It's impenetrable. Who can penetrate? So Abhimanyu said that actually I have learnt the art from my father how to penetrate this, but one thing he never finished instructing me. I can go in, but I can't come out. I don't know how to get out of it if they close it up. So when I go in, you have to come in and come in right behind me. Anyway, this story is told. There are a lot of different side stories to hear. But Abhimanyu was somehow or other they were able to close it, and that Yudhisthira and the other Pandavas weren't able to go inside after him, and so he was killed. And so as the battle went on, everyone was more or less killed except the Pandavas, and there was a few like Ashvatthama, Kripacharya, Kritavarma, who were from the Yadus who'd come to help on the Kaurava side. And so Ashvatthama had killed um, um, the sleeping sons of the Pandavas, while they were practically at the end of the Battle of Kurukshetra, and he wanted to kill the remaining descendant of the Pandavas, and at that time was still in the womb of Uttara. Ashvatthama was very powerful, and he was the son of Dronacharya. He was born very powerful. It's said that he is a mix of some type of expansion or incarnation of Rudra and other powerful devas. And his father very much worshipped Lord Shiva, and he got the benediction that Ashvatthama, Ashvatthama is well known for having a jewel in his forehead, and that was enabled right from he had it right when he was born. And so that jewel came about by the prayers and austerities of Dronacharya to propitiate Lord Shiva. So Lord Shiva awarded that jewel on the head of Ashvatthama. So he's very powerful, and by the influence of that jewel, it sets that it could do so many, protected him from diseases and all sorts of things, like made him very powerful. There were so many effects from Ashvatthama wearing this jewel. Of course, he was the son of Dronacharya. He had, when Dronacharya was teaching both the Kauravas and the Pandavas the military sciences, Ashvatthama availed himself of that instruction as well. So he was very, very powerful. But he was burning with the feelings of revenge when his father was, especially his father, and was killed by Drishtadyumna in what he thought was a very underhanded way, where Dronacharya put his weapons down in the chariot and just sat in meditation, and then Drishtadyumna took advantage and climbed over and killed him. So Ashvatthama said that that was very underhanded. So he had great revenge feelings, and he wanted to kill everyone. Although all the soldiers were killed, still the Pandavas were remaining. And so he tried to release a Brahmastra, one Brahmastra weapon against the Pandavas, but that was counteracted by Arjuna, and then he released a second, and that went. He directed it to the womb of Uttara, where the unborn Parikshit Maharaj was residing, not born as yet. So this is what's mentioned here by Sanaka Rishi, the invincible Brahmastra weapon released by Ashvatthama. But Maharaj Parikshit was saved by the Supreme Lord. So Prabhupada goes and gives a little bit of a background information about the sages assembled in the forest of Naimisharanya, and they were inquiring from Sutta Goswami. They had assembled there, seeing the upcoming age of Kali, entering in after the previous age, Dwapara Yuga, Kali Yuga. So they thought, to stave off at least for some time the effects of Kali, they were doing a 1,000-year yajna, a 1,000-year yajna, and so Sutta Goswami, who is the son of Ramahashana Sutta, took over as the head priest, explaining everything. So now this question is asked by Sanaka Rishi and to Sutta Goswami about. So they, as I said, they'd assembled in Naimisharanya. They were doing the yajna and everything like that. And they're asking about this whole incident, about the release of the Brahmastra weapon. And Prabhupada points out here that in asking this, other subject matters will be discussed, and we'll read about them as we go through here in the Bhagavatam. The other subject matters, as mentioned here, how Ashvatthama released the Brahmastra. Of course, mentioned here in the verse itself is that when Ashvatthama released it, directed it right into the womb, it is mentioned that the embryo was actually burnt. And well, there's different descriptions here, whether Maharaj Parikshit was actually killed, or whether just the embryo itself was burned and he somehow survived. But whatever, Krishna, there's one explanation that Krishna stood in front of the Brahmastra, and the Brahmastra was not able to burn him. Another explanation is that actually it was burnt, and Krishna, being the super soul in all beings, was able to revive him and bring him back to the life. So this is what is referred to here. And of course, Ashvatthama saw that his first attempt was foiled by Arjuna. He sent the Brahmastra. Arjuna sent a Brahmastra and retracted both of them. And then now the second attempt, again, it was foiled, and this time directly by the personality of Godhead, Sri Krishna. So, of course, Ashvatthama ran in fear of the retaliation, especially from Arjuna and Krishna, and so he ran. But Arjuna chased after him with Krishna in the chariot and caught up and captured Ashvatthama, and they bound him up. So this is told also in the first canto, I believe. Also, they bound him up and brought him before Draupadi, and they said that Arjun made a promise to Draupadi, I will bring that heinous person Ashvatthama before you, and he will be killed. But when Ashvatthama brought when Arjuna brought Ashvatthama before Draupadi, she saying, of course, he's a Brahmana, and she didn't. She was soft-hearted, so well, he's a Brahmana, he shouldn't actually be killed. And Yudhisthira Maharaj sided with Draupadi, saying, yes, sir, actually, we can't kill him. But Bhimsena was very angry. No, immediately he should be killed. And even Krishna says, no, immediately he should be. He's a Brahmana, but he didn't act like a Brahmana. So on both sides, there were different arguments. Should he be killed? Should he not be killed? And it's mentioned actually, Prabhupada, I remember this section in that one purport. Prabhupada says that when you got powerful arguments countering one another, it's very difficult to reconcile it. Prabhupada actually says that. There's powerful arguments on both sides. The arguments of not was it Draupadi or Uttara? What did I say? Draupadi. So Uttara. What? Draupadi. Yeah, Draupadi. Um, was giving powerful arguments, and Yudhisthira was giving the powerful arguments, and of course the Krishna and Bhima on the other side were giving powerful arguments. So uh, so um, um, Prabhupada says, therefore, Krishna, Arjuna, being a very intelligent devotee, selected a compromise in that he wouldn't be killed, but he would be humiliated. He would be humiliated, where they just chopped some of his hair and chopped the top knot of his hair, and also took the jewel. Some accounts that they just asked him for the jewel and he cut it out himself. Other accounts that Arjuna actually cut it out. I'm not exactly sure on exactly how it was cut out, but it is said that Ashvatthama, from that time on, has a scar on his forehead where that jewel was cut out from his forehead. And in this way, he was humiliated, and for a Brahmana, it is a great punishment. It's akin to death, but not exactly the death. And then Krishna was so displeased with him. They said that Krishna himself cursed him, which is generally not done by the Supreme Lord directly, but Krishna cursed him that he would be wandering around, isolated from everyone, and suffering like anything. One account is that he would be suffering for 3,000 years with no friends and just wandering around alone and living in great suffering. So Ashvatthama was cursed by the Supreme Lord for doing that heinous act, killing the unborn child in the womb, or attempting to kill the unborn child in the womb. That was Parikshit Maharaj. So this is mentioned here. Other topics are going to be discussed. What was Ashvatthama's punishment? by Arjuna, Queen Kunti Devi's prayers, the Pandavas' visit to the place where Bhishma Dev was lying. That place I went to just recently, I mentioned yesterday that I went to the Kurukshetra earlier in the year. And then my second visit to Kurukshetra, and we went to the place where the Bhishma Kund, there's one Kund, there you go, the place where Bhishma Dev was lying on the bed of the arrow. So that will be described, his prayers, thereafter Lord's departure for Dwarka, all these subject matters, his arrival at Dwarka, residing with the 16,000 princesses and, of course, the queens, his 16,000 queens, they were princesses and they became his queens. The sages were absorbed in hearing such descriptions, but now they wanted to turn to the original topic, and thus the inquiry was made by Sanaka Rishi. The subject of the release of the Brahmastra weapon by Ashvatthama is renewed. So we go to the second verse. I'll just read the translations. How was the great Emperor Parikshit, who was a highly intelligent and great devotee, born in that womb? How did his death take place, and what did he achieve after his death? Purport. The king of Hastinapur, now Delhi, used to be the emperor of the world, at least till the time of the son of Emperor Parikshit. So the son of Emperor Parikshit. Can anyone give the answer? Who was the son of Emperor Parikshit? Yes, anyone?
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, Maharaj Janmanji.
Yes,
Janmejaya.
Janmejaya. Who said? That is correct. Maharaj Parikshit was saved by the Lord in the womb of his mother, so he could certainly be saved from an untimely death due to the ill will of the son of a Brahmana. Because the age of Kali began to act just after the assumption of power by Maharaj Parikshit, first sign of misgivings was exhibited in the cursing of such a greatly intelligent and devoted king as Maharaj Parikshit. So we'll just stop there. Now, I think that you probably covered this section in the Srimad Bhagavatam earlier chapters about Maharaj Parikshit. Interestingly enough, it's a very wonderful story. And of course, Maharaj Parikshit was born and grew up to be a great emperor and a great devotee, having actually, he was able to have darshan of the Supreme Lord directly. He could see the Supreme Lord protecting him, it is said, while he was in the womb, and he longed to have again the direct darshan of the Lord in that way. So his whole life was as a devotee, and this particular incident that's mentioned here about the Parikshit Maharaj, one time when he was out hunting, he had come to the ashram. He was feeling very thirsty. Now, interestingly enough, Prabhupada explains here that just the fact that Maharaj Parikshit was feeling, was going out hunting and then was feeling very thirsty was a little unusual, and going to the ashram of Maharaj Parikshit and to get some, not going to the ashram of Samika Muni, and to Maharaj Parikshit went to the ashram of Samika Muni, and the sage was sitting in his ashram, and he was in meditation, and he was, of course, he was oblivious to the outside world. He didn't even realize Maharaj Parikshit were there. Maharaj Parikshit was there, but even the point Prabhupada does make a point of this. Even his feeling thirsty and everything like that, and tired and everything, was something that was arranged by the Supreme Personality of Godhead directly. And he actually says here, I was kind of noting it before, I'm just trying to find it. The Supreme Lord is so kind. Here it said, he became extremely fatigued, hungry, and thirsty while following the stags while he was hunting. While searching for a reservoir of water, he entered the hermitage of the well-known Samika Rishi and saw the sage sitting silently with closed eyes. So Prabhupada explains in that purport that The Supreme Lord is so kind to his pure devotees that in proper time he calls such devotees up to him, and thus creates an auspicious circumstance for the devotee. So, one can see this in another way. The king feeling very hungry and thirsty, which is a bit unusual for Maharaj Parikit, that, they would be going hunting and they would have all provisions when they go hunting for water and eating nice preparations. So all of a sudden he's feeling hungry and thirsty, as if he didn't have any water, didn't have any provisions, and he had gone to the hermitage of Samika Rishi, and just so happened at that particular moment the sage was in meditation, oblivious to the outside world, and so Prabhupada says here that the Lord brings at the proper time. He calls such devotees back up to him and creates an auspicious circumstance. So in the unfolding of this incident, that Maharaj Pariksit felt insulted that Samakarishi didn't receive him properly when he was feeling hungry and thirsty. He saw a dead snake nearby and placed it around the neck of the meditating rishi. It's very unusual for a great devotee like Maharaj Pariksit, and very unusual that Samaka Rishi was meditating like that and didn't receive him. And then, of course, we know that Sringi, the son of Samika Rishi, came back and cursed Pariksit Maharaj. So that would seem a very inauspicious. That would seem a very inauspicious situation. Why does the Lord arrange these things that he got the curse and everything? But actually, Prabhupada says he was in an auspicious way. Auspicious means which is ultimately good for your Krishna consciousness. That is the definition of auspicious. Externally, it may seem inauspicious. It may seem inauspicious. I always, I remember one story many years ago in Jakarta. One lady came to the temple and she requested that the devotees come to a new factory where her husband was an executive, and to come and do a program like to bless the factory. So we took the opportunity. We came, we did kirtan, we had some yagya, some homa, we did the kirtan. I gave a talk. We had some nice prasad and we distributed. Everything went very nicely. All the executives and the workers were around participating in the function. Everything went nicely. But the lady, after a few days, came to the temple and she said, Swami, I don't know why Krishna did this to me, but I arranged everything so nicely at the new factory of my husband. But now I have lost my job. I've lost my job. So how is it that after arranging everything so nicely, Krishna, made me lose my job? I can't understand. So she was very upset about this thing. I tried to explain philosophically, but she was so upset. After a while, she just left. But then about a week later, she came back and she said, "Oh, Swami, now I'm very happy because I've got better job." Of course, this is a very material consideration of the of the situation. But I explained to her, well, you didn't have much faith in Krishna, and what seemingly was inauspicious actually proved to be very auspicious when you got a better job than your first one. So sometimes what is considered inauspicious becomes auspicious. But actually, it's not inauspicious at all, because it's just a prelude to a setting that is a prelude to better things. So in this same situation, when Maharaj Pariksit was cursed and wasn't received nicely, that whole scenario, seemingly superficially, is very inauspicious. Well, it is a very inauspicious happening. But Prabhupada actually calls it, as I mentioned, auspicious. Um, he goes on so far as to say, of course, he says here, it was created under the arrangement of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And and he says, Maharaj Pariksit was a pure devotee of the Lord, and there was no reason for him to become extremely fatigued, hungry, thirsty, because a devotee of the Lord never becomes perturbed by such bodily demands. So that's an interesting point also, that even if a devotee is feeling a bit thirsty, feeling hungry and tired. Normal people would be very much affected by that. They get irritable. They become, because they're hungry, they're thirsty. They can, take offense at the slightest thing because they're in an irritable mood. So ordinary people are like that, but a devotee is not like that. They're not very affected if they're feeling hungry. They still remain in their Krishna consciousness. They still remain composed. They still remain very equipoised. So, hungry, thirsty, and so on and so forth, chanting with just absorbed in thinking of Krishna. So it was unusual that Maharaj Pariksit got irritated how he wasn't received, got angry with Maharaj, with rather Samika Rishi, and put a snake. Now, a snake is a low creature, and to put a snake around the neck of a rishi who's in meditation, that is, quite extreme, an offense, a big offense in itself. So very unusual for the Maharaj Pariksit, of course, was the king, but he was a Rajrishi. There's Rajas, kings, ordinary king, and then there's Rajrishi. Rajrishi means saintly king. And so he was very exalted, saintly king. He was above even ordinary king. He was Rajrishi. So it's very, very unusual that he would be feeling fatigue and be disturbed by it. And again, even more unusual, he got the snake, a dead snake, put it around the neck, picking up a snake and then putting it around the neck of a great, and Prabhupada does mention the well-known Rishi, Samika Rishi. No, that's actually mentioned in the translation itself. He entered the hermitage of the well-known Samika Rishi. So this is not just an unknown sage. He is well known and revered and highly respected. And he is the emperor Raj Rishi putting a snake around his neck. But Prabhupada actually mentions that by the desire of the Lord, um, even such a devotee as Pariksit Maharaj can apparently become hungry, thirsty, and fatigued just to create a situation favorable for his renunciation of worldly activities. And Prabhupada goes on to mention that if he had not become seemingly hungry, fatigued, and thirsty, and become angry, and not being cursed by Sringi, the son of Samika Rishi, not being cursed by Sringi, then there wouldn't have been the situation where he was cursed to die by the bite of the Takshaka snake. In 7 days he would die after the bite. And then he would go and search out someone to hear the transcendental narrations of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He would search out Sukadev Goswami and hear from him. So all these events, Krishna is so expert, he organizes that how Maharaj Pariksit comes back to him in a nice way that he just surrendered to the will of the Supreme Lord. This is Prabhupada actually comments on this at another place. He says that Pariksit Maharaj could have counteracted the curse of Sringi being very powerful, being a Rajrishi himself. He could have counteracted it, but he actually saw it as an arrangement of the Supreme Lord. He saw it. So the whole thing is an arrangement by the Supreme Lord to bring Maharaj Pariksit back to Godhead, and also to enable the speaking of the Srimad Bhagavatam by Sukadev Goswami to Maharaj Pariksit. So this whole incident was the prelude, so all these things could happen. So the Lord can achieve many things practically simultaneously. So this was the situation. So as I said, that Maharaj Pariksit could have counteracted it, but he chose not to counteract it, and just accepted it as the will and arrangement of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So here actually Prabhupada does say that this, he's commenting from the commentaries by different acharyas, and he quotes from Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, who actually also says this was whole plan was the will of the Lord, and the will of the Lord, the situation of frustration was created. The plan was that for his so-called misdeed, the king could be cursed by an inexperienced Brahmana boy infected by the influence of Kali, and thus the king would leave his hearth and home for good. His connections with Srila Sukadeva Goswami would enable the presentation of the great Srimad Bhagavatam, which is considered to be the book incarnation of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So the book incarnation, the Bhagavatam, there were two Bhagavatas, the Supreme Lord, his incarnation, and the person Bhagavata and the book Bhagavata. So this Srimad Bhagavatam is the sound representation. So it is so nice that this could be presented. And Parikshit Maharaj just accepted it as the plan of the Lord. And Prabhupada goes further to say that pure devotees, they never go against the will and arrangement of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, even though it may seem superficially detrimental. And of course, there's mention of the Sringi, the son of Samika Rishi, who was a boy who was trained very nicely by his father in brahmachari life and learnt many of the functions of a brahmana. But he was a boy and he was immature. And it's actually mentioned that when he arrived there, he was with some friends. And so when he saw the situation, he understood the situation. Uh, he being a little proud of his Brahmana heritage and being in front of his friends, he wanted to show off a little bit. And Prabhupada says he was proud of his little Brahman Tejas, or Brahma Tejas, power of the Brahmins. So he wanted to show off his power by pronouncing a curse on Maharaj Parikshit. So also mentioned there that the age of Kali, we know previously Maharaj Parikshit was out going around his kingdom, and by chance or by providence, he met with the Kali, who he saw beating the legs of the cow and the bull, and he took out his sword and was ready to immediately kill Kali, and he could have done so, being the powerful Parikshit Maharaj, but Kali fell down and begged him for mercy. And so, because he surrendered himself to Parikshit, he didn't immediately kill him, and he said that he banished him from the kingdom, never to come, never to set foot again in the whole kingdom. Now, at that time, of course, as Prabhupada mentions here, that in those days, the kings of Hastinapur, or now which is New Delhi, were the emperors of the world, right up to the Janmanjai. This was mentioned. They were the emperors of the world. So emperor means above the kings. There were many other kings, and they were subordinate to the emperor. And so in Hastinapur, that line, they were the emperors. And so Parikshit Maharaj banished Kali from the world. he was the emperor of the world. But Kali, of course, begged, "Give me some places. At least, your kingdom is everywhere. Where will I go? And I'm meant to come. It is meant to be another age, and then I also have to do my service." So he begged him, "Where can I go?" So Parikshit Maharaj gave him 4 places to go. Now you have read this. So who can give me one place that Parikshit gave for Kali to go? Where was one place?
Hare Krishna Maharaj. Wherever there is a gambling is going on.
What did you say? Sorry?
Gambling, wherever
Gambling. Where the gambling was going on. And the gambling is, just like when we become initiated, disciple, these are prohibitive activities. No gambling. With gambling comes untruthfulness, feverish, all sorts of auspiciousness comes from this gambling. It's quite this gambling is quite popular all over the world, and people, there's online gambling now. I mean, I'm not wherever, but I've heard you can go online now and do the online gambling and all sorts of gambling. And you go around, or and so many different forms of the gambling. I know Indonesia, they like to have the cockfights, the fights with the roosters, and they gather the most powerful roosters. Also in the time, India, I think also does have this type of thing, where the roosters fight with each other and they gamble on which rooster is going to defeat the other one. So there's all sorts of gambling. I was reading one story that in one place they were racing cockroaches and they were gambling which cockroach would win. Which one would be the fastest cockroach? Gamble on anything. And so I remember Prabhupada, he came to Sydney one time, early years, and we were staying down at Glebe. Our temple was in Glebe, in one inner city suburb of Sydney, and Glebe. And right next to that temple there, Prabhupada was hearing all this roaring going on, and Prabhupada asked her, what's that? What's that? What are people?" And then someone said, "Oh, Prabhupada, here, nearby here, they have dog racing. They racing the ground. There was one track, and they were racing greyhounds. It's quite popular, racing the greyhounds in the Western." And Prabhupada was a bit surprised to hear. Oh, and he said he never heard of such a thing. And he just said, his remark was, "Oh, they are racing dogs?" That's, he'd never heard of such a thing. Oh, they are racing dogs. So, and then gambling, of course, gambling with money, Of course, they're racing the horses, they're racing the dogs, they're racing the camels. They're so, people are so feverish that no, I read another time they're racing the snails, which snail could be more quicker than the other one, and so they'll bet on anything. Of course, people, it leads to all sorts of untruthfulness and so on and so forth. A feverish mentality. People lose a lot of money. Actually, I don't know in New Zealand, but I know in Australia, gambling, official gambling, they would do it sneakingly, they would do it. But any official gambling was totally, it was illegal for many, many years. You couldn't do any gambling right up until I forget, not so long ago, maybe 30, 40 years ago, gambling was illegal. There's no casinos, no, of course, no online gambling, and no gambling was allowed. They had the horse races, I think those things, but no casinos were allowed. They had horse races and they had dog races. Oh, they had some form of gambling. And so, but anyway, after a while, the government's under pressure from the big business, and they saw that well, they could tax all this thing and make money. So then they started to allow casinos and all sorts of other forms of gambling. So this is one of the places where Kali was given by Parikshit Maharaj. And what was another place?
Hare
Who can
Krishna,
say?
Prabhu. Hare Krishna Maharaj, meat eating?
Of intoxication, did you say?
Oh, meat eating.
Meat eating.
Yes.
Yes. Meat eating, of course, I already mentioned another one, intoxication. So these things, just like when we get initiated, we agree not to engage in these activities. Meat eating, slaughtering the animals, this is very sinful. And intoxication also, very sinful. And of course, illicit sex life, prostitution, these things. So those places, but practically, where are those places? In the kingdom of Parikit Maharaj. So that actually Kali brought up. Right, you're giving me these places, but where are those places? And so he's very clever, and he said, can give me one other place. And then Parikit Maharaj said, I'll give you the place where there's gold, where there's gold. And so in so many places there's gold. So in that way, uh, Kali could spread his influence in most places because most places have the gold. And also it is said here with this Sringi, Kali entered, and especially the contamination of the Brahmana order started with this Sringi, where Kali, he has an influence and he goes everywhere and he sees the people's mentality and takes advantage. And especially someone who's puffed up and with pride and arrogance, just like was the case of Sringi, the boy, the son of Samika Rishi. And so he took advantage of the young boy's immaturity and his pride and showing off and everything like that. So it is said that he influenced him. So the beginning of the degradation of the Brahmana order started with Sringi, it's mentioned in the Bhagavatam. It started with the Sringi. And of course, later on, when his father came out of his meditation, Samika Rishi could understand everything. He was a great Rishi. So he very much lamented the actions of his son. You have done a very wrong thing. He is the emperor, and you have cursed him to die. Uh, um, this situation is not very unusual. Samika Rishi could understand this must be the whole situation must have come about by providence or the will of the Lord. But his son Sringi, being immature and arrogant, really made even a greater offense. It could be argued that Parikshit did an offense to Samika, and it could be argued, and a little bit of a serious offense. But then his son cursed the emperor to die in 7 days. So that's even a much greater offense. You're cursing someone to die. Parikshit Maharaj didn't cause Samika Rishi to die. He just placed a dead snake around his neck, offense as it was. But much less than what Sringi did. He cursed him to die. So this is mentioned in the Bhagavatam as being due to immaturity. One doesn't know, can't have good distinction or be able to differentiate what is a greater thing and what is a lesser thing. And so someone who's a mature Brahmana like Samika Rishi could understand the situation very well, but his son couldn't understand it. And so he was very much lamenting, and he appealed directly to the Supreme Lord to pardon his son for such an offense, and so on and so forth. So this all this is told, and you must have read it in the earlier chapters of the Srimad Bhagavatam. But as far as Parikshit, interestingly enough, he didn't counteract. He didn't try to counteract that. And I'm just reading here, earlier chapter, where Samika Rishi thought that what his son did was a greatly sinful act. He was awarded heavy punishment for an insignificant offense. He regarded this as insignificant offense. So it wasn't commensurate with, the action and reaction. Someone does one thing, and then, but such is the position. As I said, Kali took advantage of the situation, and so these things are very common in Kali Yuga, where even the smallest wrongs are punished by the most extreme, severe punishments, and not commensurate with actually what the offense was in the first place. So this is quite common in Kali Yuga, and it'll become worse and worse and worse as Kali Yuga goes on. But the Samika Rishi, of course, was very advanced. So he said that you have given him a heavy punishment of death for an insignificant offense. And Prabhupada actually comments, the offense of the king was most insignificant, and he's been condemned to death was certainly a very great sin for Sringi. Therefore, Samika Rishi regretted the whole incident. And he says, he goes on to say, your intelligence is immature, therefore you have no knowledge of the king, who is the best amongst the human beings. He's as good as the personality of Godhead because he is a great devotee. He's never to be placed on an equal footing with common men. This is what Samika Rishi was saying to his son Sringi. The citizens of the state live in prosperity, being protected by his unsurpassable prowess. There are so many consequences to what you have done. Not only the king has to get this overly heavy punishment, but others will suffer because of what you did to the king. He gives protection. He gives so many things to the citizens. So he goes on, when this regime is abolished, the whole world becomes filled with thieves, the king's gone, and he gives so many reasons why what Sringi, his son, did was so sinful. Maharaj Pariksit is a first-class devotee. He is a saint amongst royalty, as I said, Raj Rishi. He has performed many Ashramedha yajnas. When such a king is tired and fatigued, being stricken with hunger and thirst, he does not at all deserve to be cursed. There, the Rishi prayed to the all-pervading personality of God to pardon his immature boy who had no intelligence, who committed the great sin of cursing a person who was completely free from all sins, who was subordinate, and who deserved to be protected. A question Prabhupada quotes here from the Acharyas. And he says, a question may be raised herein that since it was the desire of the Lord that Pariksit Maharaj be put into an awkward position so that he might be delivered from material existence, then why was a Brahmana son made responsible for this offensive act? The answer is that the offensive act was performed by a child only so that he could be excused very easily. Yeah, because he's a child. Thus the prayer of the father was accepted. But if the question is raised why the Brahmana community as a whole was made responsible for allowing Kali into the world affairs, the answer is given in the Varaha Purana, that the demons who acted inimically toward the personality of Godhead but were not killed by the Lord were allowed to take birth in the families of the Brahmanas to take advantage of the age of Kali. This is from Varaha Purana, that the Asuras who weren't killed by the Lord in the previous age would take birth as Brahmanas in the age of Kali. The all-merciful Lord gave them a chance to have their births in the families of pious Brahmanas so they could progress towards salvation. But the demons, instead of utilizing good opportunity, misused the Brahminical culture due to being puffed up by vanity and becoming Brahmanas. Hare Krishna. Very strong words here by Prabhupada. A typical example is the son of Samika Rishi, and all the foolish sons of Brahmanas are warned hereby. Strong words here by Prabhupada, ki jai. Lion, here's the lion. The Brahmanas are warned not to become as foolish as Sringi and to be always on guard against the demoniac qualities which they had in their previous births. Hare Krishna. Wow. The foolish boy was, of course, excused by the Lord, but others who may not have a father like Samika Rishi will be put into great difficulty if they misuse the advantages obtained by birth in a Brahmana family. Hare Krishna. These are strong words by Srila Prabhupada. We're so lucky to have great acharyas like Srila Prabhupada, and tomorrow is the disappearance day of Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur. He is also known as Singha Guru, Lion Guru, very strong. Of course, the disciple tries to follow in the footsteps of the Guru, and Srila Bhaktisiddhanta, as was his father, Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur, very powerful preachers and spreading the mission of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So Prabhupada, a disciple of Srila Bhaktisiddhanta was like that, very powerful. Bhaktivinoda Thakur prayed for a ray of Vishnu, it is said, to come and help him spread the Sankirtan movement of Lord Chaitanya. And of course, the disciple of Prabhupada, Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, he came and took up the mood of Srila Bhaktisiddhanta. And it is said that disciples should try to take up the mood of their guru. And so Prabhupada, Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Prabhupada, he instilled in his disciples the mood to try to spread the Krishna consciousness as Lord Chaitanya wanted. One devotee recently asked me, how do you keep the mood of going everywhere and traveling and preaching? And I said, because this was very much instilled in us by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, very much instilled in him by Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, very much instilled in him by Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur, especially these recent acharyas going everywhere, trying to take it all around the world. So we're very lucky to have these great acharyas. And so very strong words. The Brahmanas should be on guard and against the demoniac qualities which they had in their previous births. So it is said the Asuras, those who were Suras in their previous birth, who were not directly killed by Krishna, allowed to take birth, given an opportunity at least to be in a good family and come up and be, have develop all nice qualities, but they have to be on guard. The age of Kali is here, and they can be very easily influenced. And if they act, sinfully, especially, there'll be some heavy reactions because they're supposed to be in the position of brahmanas. But anyway, Parikshit Maharaj, he was Raj Rishi. He was not at all inclined to take any revenge. Samika Rishi was not at all inclined. He didn't take offense at all. In the snake being around his neck, he didn't take it. He very much lamented that his son had acted, seeking revenge. So these are, we can understand what great devotees. Samika Rishi is a great devotee. They have high level. They understand things very nicely, see everything in proper perspective due to their elevation in Krishna consciousness. And Parikshit Maharaj, he acted impelled by the Yogamaya potency of the Supreme Lord to act the way he did. But immediately when that happened, he just accepted it. He didn't try to retaliate. He didn't seek revenge. He could have done, as I mentioned. He's very powerful. He has a lot of tejas himself. He could have easily counteracted the curse, but just he allowed himself for it to happen so everything could unfold. But interesting, there's a nice verse in the Bhagavatam, which is in this particular chapter. Tiraskrita vipralabda saptachita hatapi nasya tat patikurvanti tad bhakta prabhavopihi. The devotees of the Lord are so forbearing that even though they are defamed, cheated, cursed, disturbed, neglected, or even killed, they are never inclined to avenge themselves. Yeah. So this is high-level devotee, high-level devotee. Just think of all these ways that one can feel wronged, defamed. Who is not defamed, especially in the age of Kali? Every one of us, we're getting defamed. We are defaming others. So that's for a Vaishnava. One has to be very careful for these things. But even if someone is defamed, even great acharyas were defamed. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur was a powerful preacher. He was preaching against misconceptions and so on and so forth. So people were angry with him because they had vested interest in their way of living was doing these types of activities. But Srila Bhaktisiddhanta preached against these immoral activities and these deviations and so on. So he was defamed. There was even a plan to try to kill him by one group. They were going to kill him because he was preaching so powerfully what is the right position. So these things are going on, even though they are not defaming. They are just speaking what is absolute truth. They're not particularly defaming anyone, but others, they want to take action. So, but even defamed, cheated, cursed, just like Narad Muni was cursed to not be able to stay in the one place by Daksha. Every time Daksha had some family, some children, Narad Muni would come to preach to them. He told them to become grihastas and make a family and increase the population of the world. Narad Muni would come and preach to them and be renunciates and just go back home, back to Godhead immediately. So Daksha was very unhappy with him. He cursed him, and Narad Muni just accepted the curse. He accepted the curse. Oh, good. And I can't stay in any one place. That's good for me. I can travel around and instruct so many people. This is actually a better situation. So cursed, disturbed, neglected. This is we travel around, and we don't pay any importance to being neglected. We're just like everybody else. We don't require any special attention. This should be the mood of the humble Vaishnava. Generally, people in the materialists, they require so much attention, and if they don't, even the slightest inattention, they become very upset. You didn't say thank you enough to me. You didn't do so many things. you didn't look after me, nicely or sufficiently. So they become very, very upset. But the Vaishnava, if he's paid attention or not paid any attention at all, he's just very calm and humble, or even killed, just like Haridas Thakur and Prahlad Maharaj, of course. The famous stories how Haridas Thakur was beaten in so many different marketplaces, and he didn't die. He actually wasn't feeling any of the lashes by the whips of the men who were deputed. And so those who were whipping him, they could see as a very special person, but they had to do it under the orders of the Nakazi. And they said, look, they actually spoke to him and said, if we've been ordered to whip you in many marketplaces, then finally whip you to the point of the death. But if you don't die, then we'll be put to the death. We'll be put to the death. So Haridas Thakur, he said, when he heard that, he said, I don't want to cause any inconvenience for you. What type of devotee is that? They were whipping him, taking and making a show of it, making an example of him. And this was what the Kazi wanted to do, like that, make an example of him in all the marketplaces, show everyone this is what happens if you go against your birth position of being a Muslim. You're going to be beaten and then finally killed. So Haridas, he just agreed, all right, then I will die. So then he went into a mystic trance, and then he stopped the breathing. So those beating him were going, now he's died. They threw him in the Ganga, and he just floated down. Then he came back to the consciousness, and he walked up the bank. And as he walked up the bank, he saw Lord Chaitanya was there. And Lord Chaitanya embraced him, and then Haridas Thakur, I was whipped. Something, I never felt anything in the whipping. And Lord Chaitanya said, yes, that's because I took the beatings. And he turned around and showed Haridas Thakur all the marks of the whips on his back. So Lord Chaitanya took the beatings. Haridas Thakur said, I didn't feel anything. And even though he feigned death to please them. So even killed, Haridas Thakur didn't try to take revenge. I'm going back to kill those men who tried to kill me, kill everyone, some people are like that. One person tried to do something, I will kill 10,000 of the people just to take revenge. So this is a very instructive verse for the Vaishnavas. It's not so easy to be like that, to be forbearing, as the word mentioned here, to be forbearing. Defamed, cheated, cursed, disturbed. We very easily become disturbed, very easily we're affected. And it's to be expected. We're beginning devotees going on the path, but one should keep in mind these instructions. At least try to be like this from time to time. You won't be like that. You'll react, but you have to try to keep it under control by good association and by following rigidly all the principles of the system of Krishna consciousness. So this is the devotees of the Lord are so forbearing that even though they are defamed, cheated, cursed, disturbed, neglected, or even killed, they are never inclined to avenge themselves. So we'll just finish off here and allow some time for questions. So this is going back to the second verse. We've only gone to 2 verses today, but this is a long purport. Because of the age of Kali, I'm going to the purport. Because of the age of Kali began to act just after the assumption of power by Maharaj Pariksit, the first sign of misgivings were exhibited in the cursing of such a greatly intelligent and devotee king as Maharaj Pariksit. This is a very considered one of the beginnings. The king is the protector of the helpless citizens, and their welfare, peace, and prosperity depend on him. Unfortunately, by the instigation of the fallen age of Kali, an unfortunate Brahmana's son was employed to condemn the innocent Maharaj Pariksit, and so the king had to prepare himself for death within 7 days. History will ever record this unfortunate incident of how a great king was killed by the unkind intrigue of the fallen son of a Brahmana. Maharaj Pariksit is especially famous as one who was protected by Vishnu, and when he was unduly cursed by a Brahmana's son, he could have invoked the mercy of the Lord to save him, but he did not want to because he was a pure devotee. So that's an interesting point, because the Lord saved him right in the womb, And so it was easy in one sense for Parikshit Maharaj to understand this was the will of the Lord, because he got the curse to die in 7 days, and the Lord already saved him once. If the Lord wanted to save him from this situation, he would have done so. But the Lord allowed this to play out, so to speak, and so the Maharaj Parikshit could understand this is the will of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, so I surrender myself to it. A pure devotee never asks the Lord for any undue favor. Um, is a very important point. We're not just asking Krishna. I mean, you know, in the Bhagavad Gita is mentioned about the four kinds of pious people. Shatu Virabhajantima Jana Sukhina Juna Atato Jigyas Gyani Cha Bharatashaba. Yes, that's verse. I think that's the verse from the Bhagavad Gita in the 8th chapter. I think it is. That four kinds of pious people. One of them, four kinds of pious people approach the Lord. One of them is to ask the Lord for whether someone is in a poverty condition, someone is distressed, someone wants knowledge, and so on. So they ask the Lord for different things. And so these are people are considered kriti. They are pious people because they're approaching God to ask for these things, but they're not considered topmost devotees, because topmost devotees don't really ask. They don't want to ask anything from the Lord. They just want to serve the Lord. They want to serve the Lord and do so many things for the Lord, and they feel very embarrassed when the Lord, gives them so many benedictions, they're not wanting that thing. So here Prabhupada actually mentions like that. He did not want to counteract. Where was that? He did not want to, because he didn't want to invoke the mercy of the Lord. And the pure devotee never asks the Lord for any undue favor. Maharaj Parikshit knew that the curse of the Brahmana son upon him was unjustified, as everyone else knew. He knew that it was unjustified, but he did not want to counteract it, because he knew also that the age of Kali had begun. It was inevitable, in other words, and that the first symptom of the age, namely degradation of the highly talented Brahmana community, so interesting, had also begun. The Brahmana community is highly talented. They're very learned. They develop all good qualities. The Brahmanas are very much favored by the Supreme Lord. They're tasked with a very important service of giving the knowledge and doing their different yagyas and teaching the people in general. So the Lord is Namo Brahmana Devaya. He's very inclined to the Brahmanas. They're very talented, but the degradation, when they become degraded, it's a very bad thing. He did not want to interfere with the current of time. Kali was inevitably coming, but he prepared himself to meet death very cheerfully and very properly. That's interesting. Normally people, when they find that they're going to die, they're very morose and depressed and distressed. But Parikshit, being a devotee, he saw now's the time for me to come closer to the Supreme Personality. He was very happy. Now's a good opportunity for me. He was very cheerful and very properly. Being fortunate, he got at least 7 days to prepare himself to meet death. So that's something. Sometimes death can come, boom, you have a heart attack, you have a stroke, boom, you can go, isn't it? At any moment. So we're given some time. If someone has got the mercy of the Lord, they're very fortunate. They're given some time to prepare themselves to become Krishna conscious. Being fortunate, he got at least 7 days to prepare himself to meet death. So he properly utilized the time in the association of Sukadeva Goswami, the great saint and devotee of the Lord. So he properly utilized the time. Oh, I've only got 2 weeks to live. I've only got a month, 3 months. Let me go traveling around the world and enjoy every little bit of the world. Squeeze out that last bit of enjoyment before I die. Most people think like that, isn't it? I'm going to die. If I've still got some strength, let me just go everywhere, do so many things, and get my last little bit of enjoyment from the world. So this is not very intelligent. It's just very unintelligent. And so Parikshit Maharaj, he only had 7 days, but at least he got some warning. And so he acted very properly utilized the time in association of the great Sukadeva Goswami. So Hare Krishna, thank you very much. We've done the first couple of verses today, and of course there's so many beautiful verses to go in remaining in this chapter. So Hare Krishna, thank you. And if anyone wants to ask any question, feel free.
Thank you very much, Maharaj. That was a very wonderful session. For the two verses, you have traversed from 12th chapter to 17th to 18th, like many chapters of Bhagavatam. You have condensed and given us the knowledge here. Thank you very much. And there is a question, it seems, looks like, from Gaurachandra Prabhu. Please go ahead, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna Maharaj, Nanda Pranam. Thank you so much for the nice classes yesterday and today. We are really grateful to you. Thank you. So Maharaj, just one question, as you just briefly mentioned that people are very fortunate, like those who get some time before they just leave their body. Just like Parikshit Maharaj, he had 7 days. Srila Prabhupada, we see a perfect example. He had ample time too, and he knew it was coming. He actually made a choice that, this is my time, and then he had time. But on the other hand, we also see some devotees who have also dedicated their life and given their life to Srila Prabhupada, towards a mission. But they just leave, sometimes in an accident and in a flash, they just leave their bodies. So how can we compare these two situations, Maharaj? Can you please throw on light on that, please? Hare Krishna, thank you.
Well, I mean, Krishna sees the individual circumstance of such personalities. Sometimes these things are arranged within a flash. They're taken from this world. Just like Tamar Krishna Maharaj. Last night I was telling the story of Tamar Krishna Maharaj giving the class in 2002, and then just a short time after that, I was with him the night before, and we were at Narashar's place, and we were having pizza. And Carla Samvara and a few of us were all there. And the next morning, Maharaj was taking the car into the Calcutta, and Carla Samvara and Govardhaneshwari, what was Carlos's wife at the time, they were in there. And Maharaj, I was leaving the next night from the international airport. And Maharaj said, you should come with us, he said to me. He said, Maharaj, you should come with us because tomorrow there's a bun, a bun in India, where they're blocking the road, everything like that. They're protesting against about something, and there's a bun on tomorrow, so they're just blocking the road. We want to leave at 4:30 in the morning, and before they even get up and start their bun, we're going to be into the Calcutta. And so if you leave it later, then they'll probably, maybe you won't even come to the airport. So you should come with us. And so my flight was like midnight or something like that. So it meant I had to go and then just stay in the airport or something. I don't know, the whole day and right to midnight. So I kind of agreed. I said, all right, I'll go with you. But then by another half an hour, I thought, well, no, it's all right. I'll take my chances. I said, so I was supposed to be in that car because Maharaj had very forcefully trying to convince me. But anyway, Maharaj was going. And of course, we know that at that Ranagat area, the driver fell asleep and he went into the tree. And Maharaj more or less immediately left, he was taken from this world. So, but, leading up, he was in, reciting Leela. He was, I just noticed Maharaj was in a very blissful mood going right up until then. Of course, Ranagat is still a holy dham. And so sometimes the Lord takes a devotee in a very seemingly strange way. But nevertheless, because they're devotee, they get all the benefits of. So it's hard to give a general answer to that question when you ask the question, how can we see? Because each person is different, and Krishna knows what is the best way forward for that particular individual to give that individual more time to prepare more, or take him immediately because he's already in the just like Tamar Krishna Maharaj was there, such I'd never seen him actually. I said to him, Maharaj, I've never seen you so peaceful and happy and calm when when you're with us here in Mayapur. And he said, yes, I'm feeling exceptionally blissful. He told me, I'm feeling exceptionally blissful. So it may have been. I don't like to say what the decision of Krishna is because I'm not on that level of a devotee. But it may have been that Krishna, in his blissful condition, he thought now is the perfect time. Take him immediately. He's already blissful. So each one is Krishna considers the circumstances. It's hard for us to know, and as I said, we can't give a general answer because each one is different. But if any devotee who's been a devotee and all of a sudden goes, then Krishna knows all about that devotee. They've been doing devotional service that Krishna will give them the reward of all those years and activities in devotional service, and maybe that devotee will go back home, back to God immediately, or at least in the next life, take up in a very high position and continue on with devotional service.
Thank you so much, Maharaj. Thank you. Very nice answer. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions? Okay. Seems we've reached the end of our session.
Okay, there is one more.
Oh, okay. I can't see.
Aparna Madaji, go ahead.
Hare Krishna Maharaj, thank you so much for wonderful lecture on Bhagavatam. I'm slightly sick, so I'm not keeping my camera on. I'm sorry. My question, Maharaj, was around taking revenge. As you mentioned beautifully, how Rishi Shingi he got so revengeful when the dead snake was put on his father's neck by Maharaj Parikshit. So in current times, we too can feel, even though we are practicing devotees, we still feel, have a feeling of revenge to people, who do good or bad or something nasty to us. So how do we get past that state of mind, Maharaj?
Yeah, well, it's not easy for someone who is a beginner, because the age of Kali is that even the slightest disturbance, people are fighting. You see all around us on international levels and national levels and community levels, and even in the family. Even in the family, there's fighting, non-stop fighting. Even at the slightest provocation, the slightest thing, just some words are said, someone becomes very offended and tries to retaliate, or even just you look at, what are you looking at? Why are you looking at like that at me? We're offended so easily in the Kali Yuga, but we see great devotees, they tolerate all sorts, and sometimes Krishna puts them in these conditions, just like Prahlad Maharaj, and someone may ask why, Krishna puts them in these positions. They're pure devotees. They're his dear servants. Well, Krishna gives them the power to overcome these things, just like Haridas Thakur didn't feel a thing. There's one mention in one Purana that when Hiranyakashipu was placed on the lap of Lord Nrsingadev, once he had the touch of Lord Nrsingadev, he didn't feel anything what was going on, even though he was being ripped apart by the nails of Lord Nrsingadev. And when he was looking up, he actually remembered his position, Jai Vijay, of the spiritual world. He was seeing himself in that and looking up very lovingly at Lord Nrsingadev. So the Lord empowers them, and also wants to show by example that how great devotees, even in the most extreme conditions, extreme, Prahlad Maharaj, Haridas Thakur, extreme, they are tolerating. So therefore, we have to read these stories. We have to read these stories, and with our intelligence, at least, we should know that not to do the. We have to, our mind and our senses are raging. We feel very angry. We want to take action, retaliation. But we now Prabhupada in the verses I was reading in the purport, Prabhupada says that personally one has to practice forbearance and tolerance. But if offences and insults are hurled at other devotees, or the guru, or Krishna, then the devotees are not very tolerant of that. As far as others, then they will speak up. They'll say something or take some action to curtail that situation. So as far as others, but as far as themselves, Prabhupada says, as far as possible, one has to be forbearing, which means forbearing means very tolerant, and just try to go past it. Just leave it in the hands of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So at least intelligently, we read these stories about this type of thing, these instructions, and we have to remind ourselves. And as we advance in devotional service, there'll be a natural feeling to be like that. In the beginning stages, we don't naturally feel like that, or our conditioning makes us not be like that. The tendency is, and we see the karmis, we see all around us, everyone is retaliating, taking action against a perceived wrong. They're immediately and they're encouraged to do so. You should immediately take action. You should immediately retaliate. Physically, verbally, physically, take them to the court. Try to get them for everything. And so everyone is encouraged to do it like that. So therefore, we're very much affected, and we're also affected by the modes of material nature. So we're coming to devotional service. So we've got a little bit of that still in our minds and our consciousness. And so therefore, the tendency is to be like that when wronged by a devotee or by anyone, and to take action. But we remember these instructions, and as you advance, the feeling will be more natural not to actually take anything. It'll become almost instinctive to be. But that comes more and more as you advance. So you have to be patient about your advancement. But in the meantime, just see what the actions of our great acharyas are. I'm just, while I was saying that, I'm reminded of a story of Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati, where every night in Calcutta, in the Bag Bazaar temple, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta would give class. And so he was giving the class, and then one man used to come regularly, but he was a little bit of a disturbance in the class, because he would generally, someone would give the class, and then at the end everyone would ask questions. This one would interject all the time, and not allow Srila Bhaktisiddhanta to finish even, and not even finish sentences, just interject all of a sudden, and so on and so forth, and ask very challenging, kind of condescending type of questions. So the disciples were very annoyed at this one. They wanted to throw him out. But Srila Bhaktisiddhanta didn't give any. They were looking towards Srila Bhaktisiddhanta whether they should take action like that. He didn't give any indication such action should be taken. Later on, upstairs in his room, he was on the balcony, and he was with one of his servants, and there was a big procession underneath. A lot of people were coming down the road, and Srila Bhaktisiddhanta asked his disciple, what is that procession? And his disciple said, Gurudev, that man who used to come and create so much disturbance in your class. And Srila Bhaktisiddhanta nodded, and he said, that's his funeral procession. He died. That's his funeral procession there. And then he added, just see, he got his reactions. He got it. That's the disciple said that. And Srila Bhaktisiddhanta, he stopped him. He said, no, don't say like that. I saw that man as being sent by Krishna to teach me humility. Teach me humility. So we see how you see how the great Vaishnavas think.
Sure. Yeah, that is
So
enlightening, Maharaj.
yeah, so we need to hear these stories, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much. It has really opened my eyes. Hare Krishna, Maharaj. Thank you again.
All right, thank you. Hare Krishna. All right. I think that brings us to the end this morning. Thank you for my privilege in being with you all and being on the Zoom call. And, modern technology is good for many things if you utilize properly. So we devotees utilize it all properly, speaking Srimad Bhagavatam, Bhagavad Gita, and associating very nicely. So Hare Krishna. Thank you very much. Jai, all glories to Srila Prabhupada.
Prabhupada ki jai.
Jai Gaur Premanandi.
Hare Hare Bol. His Holiness Ramai Swami Maharaj ki jai. Thank you very much, Maharaj. Let us show our gratitude by chanting Hare Krishna Maha Mantra. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Thank you very much, Maharaj. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Maharaj.